The video game industry has a thing for nostalgia. Whilst remastering last gen games have been happening since the start of the generation, remakes are a different kettle of fish. Taking a beloved game, bringing it up to modern day standards with a whole host of new graphical and gameplay enhancements, whilst also ironing out any kinks of the original. Now this is a great idea, but sometimes there's remakes that dramatically changes things up from the original, and this can be a dangerous thing to do to fans. But here comes Final Fantasy VII Remake, a game that changes up a lot to make for something completely different. So let's see how they did, shall we? Originally announced all the way back at Sony's phenomenal E3 2015 presentation, which showcased big hit after big hit, but arguably the most important announcement was this full-on remake of the PS1 classic. All we got was a CGI trailer, but the hype was high. Info drip-fed throughout the years, most notably it being an episodic release, which did worry some, but suffice to say the game was announced way too early and was going to be a big challenge for Square to try and pull it off. But it's now here, and after all these years, it's going to surprise a lot of people. Starting straight off, we're going to talk about the story, and the game follows the early stages of the original game, being entirely set around the Midgard area that made up the first 10 or so hours of the original adventure. But here, everything has been expanded, added so much more depth and meaning to it. The tale still follows Merc for Hire Cloud Strife, who helps the environmentalist group Avalanche as they try to take down the corrupt group Shinra. The company rules the land with an iron grip, and the story still follows the main part of the Midgard storyline, but greatly expands on it. There's whole new narrative plot points, greater development of mainline characters, as well as new characters and scenarios. All these new narrative beats are woven effortlessly into the game and feels like a natural fit, and allow returning players to discover more and appreciate the world Square has built here. The script is well written, with a nice bit of humour added in, all the actors put in a great performance, and the game does have plenty of nods to the nostalgic original. On to the gameplay now, and as you might expect, the game has seen a huge shake-up over the original, changing both exploration and battles to make for a rather unrecognisable experience from the original. Well, in gameplay at least. The game is split into chapters, and these are mixed into like exploration chapters and more action and battle heavy chapters. These exploration chapters see you let loose in a moderately sized area filled with NPCs, the odd battle, and mostly focuses on story and character building. These areas also house loads of side missions, which I'll talk about later. Then we have our action chapters, which sees our heroes doing one of the major missions to take down Shinra, and these are rather linear affairs where you essentially walk from A to B with the path rarely branching out, similar to the lines of the linear exploration of the final few chapters of Final Fantasy XV, where it changed from open world to linear experience. It's not as bad as 15's final few chapters, but it would have been nice if the areas you explored are more open, but that being said, there's still a fair amount of secrets and items to find about if you want to find them, though it never really opens up as much as you want it to. The game's side missions are a decent collection of 20 odd side missions that pop up on your map, and these are fairly basic collection of missions from fetch quests, beating up enemies, and the occasional boss battles. They're enjoyable enough, but hunting around for cats aren't really my cup of tea, but thankfully these are fully optional, and the few bosses here are a blast, and they do net you some worthwhile rewards. Where the game really does shine, and the remake really does stand out in a whole new light, is in its combat. Taking inspiration from the active time battle system, whilst also mixing it up with modern day RPG tropes, you fully control your character in battle, be it Cloud, Tifa, Barrett, or whoever. You can swap between these characters anytime during the battles, whilst the AI takes over the other players. You can hit the square button to attack, which builds up your ATB meter, and when your ATB meter is filled, you can use magic or what other special abilities are at your disposal. Each character has an alternative skill which is unique to each character. Cloud has the ability to switch between Operator and Punisher fight styles. Operator is your standard style that delivers quick attacks, but Punisher slows down Cloud's movements and gives him greater attack power. Other characters' special moves include an overcharge move for Barrett's Gatling gun that can devastate enemies and quickly fill up your ATB gauge, whilst Tifa has a powerful uppercut that can be upgraded and enhanced later on. Getting into combat is a real blast. You can scan an enemy to get info on its weaknesses and strengths, and here you can exploit its weaknesses. Switching characters is a major part of the combat. You attack the enemy with enough standard attacks to fill up the ATB gauge, then you can choose your attack. Time slows down to the snail's pace and you can pick your next move, be it Cloud's, Tifa's, Barrett's or whoever. The ability to swap characters and exploiting weaknesses allow for a greater amount of strategy. The strategy gets even more in depth when you add in the materia system. You can find materia all over the place, lying in levels, rewards from side quests and buying it from shops. And when equipped, this materia allows your character to do special attacks and moves, from spells and deadly dodge abilities, which is also helpful. Adding the fact that each character has multiple weapons with weapon upgrade trees, that's a lot for folks to play about with to get the perfect setup. On to the length now, and this game is based on the first 10 or so hours of the original adventure, but as I said before, it's been greatly expanded. To complete the game, you're talking around a good 30 to 35 hours to complete the mainline adventure if you don't want to focus on the side missions. But if you want to do the 20 or so side missions, then you're talking around a good 40 to 45 hours, which is pretty generous. And considering this is the first part, it does make me wonder how long the other parts will be. As this is a Final Fantasy game, it's always a given that the music will be top notch, and yet again Square and their talented team of musicians have done a wonderful job here, with plenty of stunning orchestrated tracks playing throughout battles and explorations, as well as plenty of remixed music tracks to unlock through the game to make for one of the best soundtracks in the series. Presentation wise, Final Fantasy VII is a bit of a mixed bag. The opening few chapters look absolutely stunning with some wonderful looking cutscenes with plenty of sharp details, textures and particle effects. I have to admit it's literally jaw dropping at times and arguably one of the best looking titles of this generation. But there is an issue in some areas in the game that have some serious texture popping issues and many NPCs look a bit last gen. Whilst not a deal breaker, it is noticeable and a small blemish on an otherwise stunning game. As for the frame rate and the resolution, on the base PS4 we've got a 1080p affair running at 30fps, whilst at Pro we have 1620p at 30fps. It's a fantastic looking experience most of the time and the frame rate is rock solid without a drop in sight, and that's an incredibly impressive feat for both the PS4 and the PS4 Pro. Conclusion time now, and Final Fantasy VII Remake could have gone wrong in so many different ways, from changing its battle system to the episodic nature of the game. But no, Square has, for the most part, done a stellar job here. From a loving recreation of the original game's opening hours with much more depth and expansion of character development, its redesigned combat is superb and allows for a great amount of strategy. It's just a shame that the level design is a bit too linear and the side missions aren't nothing special, but apart from that it's a true labour of love from start to end, and I can't wait to see how Square continues this series. So with that, I'm giving Final Fantasy VII Remake on the PS4 an 8.5 out of 10 with a title of great. As always, thank you for watching my review, like, rate and subscribe, and until next time, happy gaming, bye.